The twin sons of Kala painted the sky in soft purple and gold as Elder Tem walked through his garden. The crystal flowers chimed gently in the warm breeze, their blue petals catching the morning light. His people, the Keth, moved peacefully. Through their small city below, children played in the streets while their parents tended to the crystal farms that had fed their world for 1,000 years. Smiled as he watched a group of youngsters chase floating bubbles near the fountain. The Keth were a simple people. They stood no taller than a human child, with blue skin that shimmered like water and large, kind eyes. They had never known war. They had never needed to. The peace shattered when the sky went dark. Looked up to see massive ships blocking out the suns. Black metal hulls stretched across the horizon like storm clouds. The elder's hands shook as he counted them. 50 vessels, each one bigger than his entire city. The Vex Empire had found them down in the city. The Keth people stopped their daily work. They pointed at the sky with fear in their voices. Parents pulled their children close. The crystal chimes fell silent, as if the very planet held its breath. A booming voice filled the air, speaking in the harsh language of the Vex. Tem's translation device crackled to life on his wrist. "People of Kala," the voice said, "I am Commander Drax of the Vex Empire. Your world contains crystals we require for our fleet. You have 1 day to gather all your crystals and deliver them to us. If you refuse, we will take them by force." Tem's heart sank. The crystals were not just their livelihood, they were part of their world's life force. Without them, the planet would slowly die. But he knew his people could not fight the Vex. The Keth had no weapons, no army, no way to defend themselves. The elder hurried to the communication center in the heart of the city. His advisors were already there, their blue faces pale with worry. "Elder Tem," said his assistant, "a young Keth named Nyla. What can we do? We are farmers, not warriors." Tem sat heavily in his chair. The Vex were known across the galaxy as ruthless conquerors. They took what they wanted and destroyed anyone who stood in their way. Their gray skin was like armor. Their red eyes showed no mercy, and their claws could tear through metal. "You must ask for help," Tem said finally. "Send a message on the galactic network. Tell everyone what is happening here." Neela worked quickly at the communication panel. Her fingers danced over the controls as she sent out their desperate plea. "Help us," the message said. "We are the Keth people of planet Kala. The Vex Empire wants to take our crystals and destroy our world. We are a peaceful people with no weapons. Please, someone help us before it's too late." Hours passed. A few replies came back, but none offered hope. "Sorry, but the Vex are too strong," wrote one alien trader. "Just give them what they want," suggested another. "We cannot risk war with the Vex Empire," said a third dot as the day wore on. Tem watched. More and more rejections filled his screen. The galaxy's other races were either too afraid or too selfish to help a small world of peaceful farmers. Just as Tem began to lose hope, a new message appeared. It came from a system far away, from a planet called Earth. The message was short and simple. "We hear you. Help is coming." Tem stared at the words. He had never heard of Earth or its people called humans. When he searched the galactic database, he found only a small entry. Earth was listed as a Class 12 death world, a place where only the strongest could survive. "Elder," Neela said, reading over his shoulder. "Do you think they can really help us?" Tem looked up at the dark shapes in the sky. Commander Drax had been quiet since his first message, but everyone knew he was preparing for war. Tomorrow, if the Keth did not give up their crystals, the Vex would attack. "I don't know," Tem said quietly. "But right now, these humans from Earth are our only hope." Above them, the Vex ships waited like hungry wolves. Time was running out for the peaceful world of Kala. Far across the galaxy. On the massive space station called New Hope, alien leaders gathered in their emergency meeting hall. The circular room buzzed with worried voices as representatives from dozens of worlds took their seats. Ambassador Kryn of the Talon people stood at the center podium. His tall, thin frame cast a long shadow as the lights dimmed. The Talon were known for their wisdom and long memory, and Kryn had lived for over 300 years. Friends, Kryn began, his voice echoing through the hall. We have received troubling news from the Kala system. The Vex Empire has demanded surrender from the Keth people. Murmurs filled the room. Everyone knew what happened when the Vex wanted something. They took it, no matter the cost in lives. But that is not why I called this meeting, Kryn continued. The strange part is that someone has promised to help them. A species we barely know, the humans of Earth. A ripple of confusion spread through the gathered aliens. Some whispered to their neighbors. Others checked their data tablets for information. Humans? Asked Delegate Zora of the Moth People. Her insect-like features twitched with curiosity. I have never heard this name before. Kryn nodded grimly. Few of us have. But what we do know should concern us all. Earth is classified as a Class 12 death world. The room fell silent. Class 12 was the highest danger rating a planet could receive. It meant the world was so hostile that most alien life would die within hours of landing there. Class 12? Gasped Delegate Mora of the Peaceful Silk People. But that means their entire world is a death trap. How could intelligent life evolve? There? That's exactly what we need to understand, Kryn said, his ancient eyes showing worry. Because if they survived that kind of world, what does that make them? In the back corner, an old trader named Beck raised his weathered hand. The grizzled alien had traveled more of the galaxy than most, buying and selling goods on 1,000 worlds. His skin was scarred from decades of dangerous trading missions, and his eyes held the wisdom of someone who had seen everything. I've met a human before, Beck said, his gravelly voice carrying across the quiet room. It was about 10 years ago, in a bar on Station 7. Every eye turned to him. Beck rarely spoke at these meetings, but when he did, people listened. He had survived encounters that killed other traders. There was a fight, Beck continued. 5 Grex warriors were picking on some smaller traders. You know how the Grex are. Big, strong, mean as hungry beasts. Each one stands 8 feet tall with muscles like steel cables. Several delegates nodded. The Grex were known throughout the galaxy as brutal fighters who enjoyed causing pain. Then this human walks over, Beck said, his voice growing quieter. As everyone leaned in to listen, he wasn't very tall, this human. Maybe 6 feet, which made him look tiny next to the Grex. Had pale skin and strange hair on top of his head. Looked soft compared to the Grex warriors. Beck paused, remembering that night clearly. The biggest Grex laughed at him, called him a weakling and pushed him hard. Would have sent any of us flying across the room. What happened? Asked Ambassador Kryn, though something in Beck's expression told him the answer would be surprising. The human barely moved from the push, just stood there like a mountain. Then he spoke, calm as you please, and told the Grex to leave the traders alone. Beck's eyes grew distant with memory. The Grex got angry, and all 5 attacked at once. 5 against 1? Delegate Zora's antennae twitched with concern. The poor human must have been crushed. Beck smiled, showing his worn teeth. That's what I thought too. But this human, he moved like liquid lightning, faster than anything I'd ever seen. He dodged the first Grex's claws like they were moving through thick mud. Then he struck back. The room was completely silent now, every delegate hanging on Beck's words. 1 punch, Beck said slowly. One punch, and the biggest Grex warrior went down like a falling tree. The human's fist hit him right in the chest, and I swear I heard bones breaking from across the room. "Impossible," whispered someone in the crowd. The other 4 Grex tried to surround him, Beck continued. But this human fought like he was dancing. Every move was perfect. Every strike hit exactly where it needed to. In less than a minute, all 5 Grex warriors were on the floor, broken and bleeding. Ambassador Kryn leaned forward. "And then? That's the part that really got to me," Beck said, his voice filled with wonder. The human didn't gloat or boast. He helped each injured Grex to their feet, made sure they could walk, and bought them all drinks. Even called for medical help when he saw one was hurt worse than the others. "Strong but merciful," whispered Delegate Zora. "A warrior with honor." "There's more," Beck said. "I was curious about this human species after that night. Started asking questions wherever I went. Turns out their whole planet is trying to kill them every single day." He pulled out his old data pad, its screen cracked from years of use. "Look at this. Poisonous creatures everywhere. Snakes that can kill with one bite. Spiders the size of your hand with venom that stops hearts. Weather that can freeze you solid or burn you alive. Diseases that would wipe out entire alien worlds in weeks." The delegates stared at the information with growing horror and amazement. "Their gravity is almost twice our standard," Beck continued. "The air they breathe would poison most of us. And that's not even counting the natural disasters, massive storms, earthquakes that split continents, volcanoes that darken their skies for months. How do they survive?" Asked Delegate Mora, her voice barely a whisper. "That's just it," Beck said grimly. "They don't just survive. They conquered their world. They turned every deadly challenge into an opportunity to grow stronger, faster, smarter." Ambassador Kryn pulled up Earth's file on the main screen. The sparse data showed a blue and green world covered in water and storms. But now, knowing what Beck had told them, it looked less like a paradise and more like a beautiful nightmare. 90% of the surface is covered in a substance called water," Kryn read aloud. "It burns most alien life on contact. Extreme temperature changes from frozen solid to boiling hot. Gravity nearly twice the galactic standard. Air that contains oxygen, a highly reactive gas that would corrode our lung systems. And they call this home," said another delegate in amazement. Meanwhile, in the Kala system, Elder Tem stood in his communication room, watching the dark Vex ships above. Commander Drax had sent another threatening message an hour ago, reminding them that time was running out. The deadline was only hours away. "Any word from these humans?" asked Nyla, checking the long-range sensors for the 100th time. Her small hands shook with worry. "Nothing yet," Tem replied, but his voice carried hope despite the fear. Even as he spoke, something flickered at the edge of their sensor range. Ships were coming out of faster-than-light travel, their engines leaving bright trails against the star field. "Elder," Mila called out suddenly. "I'm reading ships on the sensors. They're not Vex design." Back on New Hope Station, alarms began to sound throughout the meeting hall. The sensor operator, a nervous young alien named Pip, called out from his station with excitement in his voice. "Ambassador Kryn, I'm reading multiple ships entering the Kala system. They're not in our database. Unknown configuration, but they're big." Kryn rushed over to Pip's sensor station, his long legs carrying him quickly across the room. Other delegates crowded around to see the readings. "How many ships?" Kryn asked, his ancient heart beating faster. 20, sir. No. Wait, ... Pip's eyes widened as more contacts appeared on his screen. "More are appearing every second. I count 50, ... 60. 70 ships and still more coming out of hyperspace. The old trader Beck pushed through the crowd to look at the sensor data. When he saw the ship configurations angular, heavily armored, bristling with weapons, his scarred face broke into a fierce grin. "Those are human ships," he said with certainty. "I'd recognize that design anywhere. Looks like we're about to learn what these Deathworlders are really made of." In the depths of space, the human fleet continued to grow as more ships arrived to answer a desperate call for help from a world they had never seen, for people they had never met. The human fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel like ghosts materializing in the darkness of space. 20 ships hung in the void near planet Kala, their dark metal hulls reflecting the light of the twin suns. On the surface, Elder Tem pressed his face against the window of his communication center. The human vessels looked different from any ships he had seen before. Where other alien craft were smooth and curved, these were angular and brutal. Thick armor plating covered every surface, and weapon ports dotted their hulls like the eyes of hunting spiders. "They're so fierce-looking," whispered Nyla, standing beside him. The largest human ship moved forward from the group. Its hull bore strange markings that the Keth translation systems could not read. A communication signal reached Tem's console. "This is Admiral Kane of the Earth Defense Fleet," in a clear, strong voice. "We received your distress call. Please respond." Tem's hands shook as he activated his transmitter. "Admiral Kane, this is Elder Tem of the Keth people. Thank you for coming. We are in great danger." "We can see that, Elder Tem. 27 enemy vessels in orbit. What are their intentions?" Before Tem could answer, another voice cut through the channel. Commander Drax's harsh tones filled the communication room. "I am Commander Drax of the Vex Empire. You are interfering in Imperial business, humans. Leave now or be destroyed." There was a pause. Then Admiral Kane's voice returned, calm and steady. "Commander Drax, you are threatening a peaceful world. Withdraw your forces immediately or face the consequences." Drax's laughter boomed through the speakers. "You dare threaten the mighty Vex Empire? I have 50 ships. You have 20. Your math is poor, human." Admiral Kane's reply was quiet, but carried the weight of iron. "Commander, you're about to learn that numbers aren't everything." On the bridge of his command ship, Commander Drax studied the human vessels on his main screen. He was a typical Vex, 7 feet tall with gray, armored skin and burning red eyes. His clawed hands gripped the arms of his command chair. "These humans are fools," he growled to his officers. "Their ships are smaller than ours. Prepare to attack. Show them the price of defying the Vex Empire." The Vex fleet moved into battle formation. 50 dark ships spread out like a swarm of metal insects. Their weapons charging with green energy. Drax smiled, showing his sharp teeth. Fire! Green beams of deadly energy lanced out from the Vex ships, striking the human vessels. Drax expected to see explosions and debris. Instead, he watched in growing confusion as the human ships barely seemed damaged. "What?" he snarled. "How? Are their shields so strong?" His weapons officer, a nervous Vex named Torx, checked his readings twice. "Commander, they don't appear to have energy shields at all. That's solid armor taking our hits." Drax stared at the screen. No species built armor that thick. It would make the ships too heavy, too slow. Yet the human vessels moved with surprising grace, despite their bulk. Admiral Kane's voice came over. The communication channel again. "Commander Drax, you fired first. That was a mistake." The human ships returned fire. Streams of metal projectiles shot out from their weapons at incredible speed. The railgun rounds punched through Vex armor like paper, sending 3 enemy ships spinning into explosive death in the first volley. Drax stumbled as his own ship shook from a near miss. Impossible. What kind of weapons are those? They're using. Solid projectiles, sir, reported Torx, his voice cracking with fear. Accelerated to extreme velocities. Our armor can't stop them. More human weapons fired. Missiles with nuclear warheads streaked across space, guided by targeting systems that never missed. Another 2 Vex ships vanished in balls of fire and radiation. Elder Tem watched the battle from his window, hardly able to believe what he was seeing. The humans were outnumbered more than 2 to 1, but they were winning. Their ships fought with a deadly precision that terrified even the peaceful Keth. How are they so strong? Mila asked in wonder. They come from a death world, Tem said quietly, remembering the database entry. They've spent their whole existence fighting for survival. This is what they do. Commander Drax's fleet began to break formation as more ships exploded. His officers were shouting reports of damage and casualties. The humans had destroyed 8 Vex vessels without losing a single one of their own. Sir, Torx called out, more ships are coming out of hyperspace. Drax turned to see additional human vessels appearing at the edge of the battle zone. Not 20 ships now, but 50. Then 100. The human fleet kept growing as reinforcements arrived from Earth. Admiral Kane's voice filled the communication. Channel one last time. Commander Drax, you wanted to see what Earth brings to a fight. Now you know. The space around planet Kala had become a graveyard of burning metal. 15 Vex ships floated dead in the void, their hulls torn open by human railgun fire. Commander Drax watched his fleet fall apart with growing terror. How many human ships? Now? He demanded. His officer Torx looked up from his console, his gray face pale with fear. 120, sir. And more keep coming. Admiral Kane's fleet had been holding back. The first 20 ships were just the advance guard. Now the real Earth defense fleet showed itself. Massive battleships that dwarfed even the largest Vex vessels. Sleek destroyers that moved like hunting. Sharks and carrier ships that released swarms of fighter craft. On the surface of Kala, Elder Tem could barely see individual ships anymore. The space above his world was full of human vessels, their formation lights creating new constellations in the sky. There are so many, breathed Neela. How big is their fleet? The answer came from Admiral Kane herself. Her image appeared on screens. Across the human fleet, and was broadcast to both the Kef people and the remaining Vex ships. Kane stood on her bridge. A tall woman with steel-gray hair and eyes that had seen many battles. Behind her, human crew members worked at their stations, with calm efficiency. This is Admiral Sarah Kane of Earth's Third Fleet, she said. Commander Drax, you are facing less than half of humanity's military strength. Our other fleets are protecting dozens of worlds across this sector. Surrender now, and your surviving crews will be allowed to return home. Drax snarled at his screen. The humans were mocking him. How could one small planet field so many warships? Sir, Torx whispered urgently. Perhaps we should consider— Never, Drax roared. We are the Vex Empire. We do not surrender to anyone. He turned to his weapons officer. Target the planet directly. If we cannot have their crystals, no one will. The massive Vex command ship began to turn its main cannon toward Kala. The weapon was designed to crack planets, turning their surfaces into molten glass. But the humans had anticipated this move. 3 human destroyers broke from formation and raced toward Drax's ship. They moved with impossible speed, their engines burning like blue stars. Vex fighters tried to intercept them, but the human ships danced through the enemy fire like they were playing a game. Stop them, Drax screamed. Don't let them reach us. The lead human destroyer was piloted by a young man named Alex. He was barely 25 years old, with brown hair and determined eyes. His ship's hull was scarred from previous battles, and his crew, had nicknamed it the Meteor. "Control, this is Meteor," Alex said into his radio. "I can reach their main gun, but it's a one-way trip." Admiral Kane's voice crackled back through. "The communication system. Negative, Meteor. Find another way." But Alex could see the massive cannon almost finished, turning toward the innocent world below. Millions of Keth people were depending on him. Children like the ones he had seen playing in Elder Tem's broadcasts. "Sorry, Admiral," Alex said quietly. "Some things are worth dying for." He cut his communication link and pushed his engines to maximum power. The Meteor shot forward like its namesake, burning bright in the darkness of space. Drax watched in horror as the small human ship raced directly at his command bridge. Shoot it down now." Every gun on the Vex ship fired at once, filling space with deadly energy. But Alex flew through the storm of weapons, fire with skill born from years of training on humanity's dangerous homeworld. Humans learned to fly in Earth's violent storms and crushing gravity. This was just another day to him. The Meteor struck the Vex command ship's main cannon just as it was about to fire. The explosion lit up half the battle zone. Alex's ship and the planet-killing weapon disappeared in a ball of nuclear fire. Elder Tem watched from his window as the young human pilot sacrificed himself to save a world he had never visited, for people he had never met. "Why?" Tem whispered. "Why would he do that for us?" The answer came from Admiral Kane, whose voice was heavy with both pride and grief. "Because that's what humans do. We protect those who cannot protect themselves, no matter the cost." The remaining Vex ships began to retreat. They had lost over half their fleet, their main weapon was destroyed, and the humans showed no signs of slowing their attack. Commander Drax's ship limped away from the battle, its hull cracked and engines failing. As he fled, he sent one final message to his home fleet: "Avoid human space at all costs. They are not like other species. They are something else entirely." The space around Kala grew quiet as the last Vex ship vanished into hyperspace. The human fleet formed a protective formation around the peaceful world, their weapons still ready but no longer needed. Elder Tem looked up at the stars where Alex had died and whispered a prayer of thanks to the brave human pilot who would never see his own home again. 3 days after the battle, Elder Tem walked through the gardens of his city once more. But now everything was different. Human ships still patrolled the space above Kala, their dark shapes visible against the purple sky. The Keth people no longer feared those shadows. They had learned that sometimes the most frightening guardians were also the most faithful. Tem made his way to the landing pad where Admiral Kane's shuttle had touched down an hour before. The human leader had come to the surface to meet with him personally, something that surprised the gentle Keth elder. Admiral Kane stood waiting for him near her shuttle. Up close, she looked tired. The battle had cost her many good people, including young Alex, who had died saving their world. Her steel-gray hair caught the morning light, and her uniform bore the scars of recent combat. "Elder Tem," she said, offering a slight bow in the Keth custom. "Thank you for agreeing to meet with me." "Admiral Kane," Tem replied, his voice full of gratitude. "It is I who should thank you. You saved our entire world. How can we ever repay such a debt?" Kane looked confused. "Repay? Elder, there is no debt. You asked for help, and we gave it. That's what decent beings do for each other." Tem studied the human woman's face. He had lived for nearly 200 years and met many alien species, but he had never encountered anyone like these humans. "Your pilot, Alex," Tem said softly. "He died for people he had never met. Why would he make such a sacrifice?" Kane's expression grew sad, but also proud. "Because he was human, Elder. We're taught from childhood that the strong protect the weak. that those who can help must help. It doesn't matter if you're family or strangers from across the galaxy. They walked together through Tem's garden, past the crystal flowers that chimed softly in the breeze. Human engineers worked alongside Keth technicians, setting up new defense systems to protect the world from future attacks. Our crystals, Tem said. We want to share them with you. They can power your ships more efficiently than anything else in the galaxy. Kane shook her head. We didn't fight for your resources, Elder. We fought because it was right. I know, Tem said with a smile. That's why we want to share them freely. True friendship is built on trust, not trade. Across the galaxy, news of the Battle of Kala spread like wildfire. On New Hope Station, Ambassador Kryn stood before a packed assembly hall, reading reports from across known space. In the past 3 days, Kryn announced, 17 different worlds have sent messages to Earth requesting protection from various threats. The humans have responded to every single request. The old trader Beck nodded from his seat in the back. I told you they were different. They don't fight for profit or territory. They fight for others. In the Vex Empire's capital, Commander Drax limped into the throne room of the Supreme Leader. His injuries from the battle were still healing, and his pride hurt worse than his wounds. Report, demanded the Supreme Leader, a massive Vex with scars covering his gray skin. Avoid human space, Drax said simply. They are not like other species. They fight with the fury of their death world, but also with honor we do not understand. They saved strangers and asked for nothing in return. The Supreme Leader growled. You sound like you admire them. I fear them, Drax admitted. But yes, I also admire them. They are what we pretend to be, true warriors who protect instead of just conquer. Back on Kala, Admiral Kane received a priority message from Earth Command. She read it quickly, then looked up at Elder Tem. More calls for help, she said. A mining colony being attacked by pirates. A research station threatened by raiders. A trade route being blockaded by criminals. Will you go? Tem asked. Kane smiled, and for the first time since he met her, she looked truly happy. Of course, that's what we do. As her shuttle prepared to depart, Elder Tem watched Human and Keth, children playing together near the landing pad. They had already started learning each other's languages and games. The crystal flowers around them chimed a new song, as if celebrating the friendship between their worlds. Admiral, Tem called out as Kane climbed into her shuttle. What do? You call it when someone helps others without expecting reward? Kane paused in the doorway. On Earth, we call it being human. The shuttle lifted off, carrying Admiral Kane back to her fleet. But other humans remained on Kala, working with the Keth people to build defenses and sharing the knowledge of their respective worlds. That night, Elder Tem stood on his balcony and looked up at the stars. Somewhere out there, human fleets were answering new calls for help. Other peaceful worlds were learning what Kala had learned, that in the darkness of space there were guardians who asked for nothing but the chance to do what was right. The age of Earth's protection had begun, and the galaxy would never be the same dot in the distance. The crystal flowers sang their ancient songs, but now they sang of hope, of friendship, and of the humans who had taught them that sometimes the strongest warriors were also the kindest protectors. Word count 770.